on. It's following the last talk that we were talking about young horses, training young horses, and also re-educating horses. And what I'm going to talk about tonight is two very important subjects that we sort of come across when we're teaching horses, and one of the most important subjects that we want to talk about training horses and how we want to help our horses is replacing anxiety with confidence. Now that's sort of, it's quite a hard thing in some horses, because a lot of horses are quite anxious around us, and they're anxious about things that are going on around us. And how do you replace anxiety with confidence? Well, there's no one answer to that. And the other part we're going to talk about is desensitizing. So I'm going to start with using desensitizing as a bit of an example, because there's ways how we operate our horses that's going to sort of make them anxious. But starting with desensitizing, because desensitizing is one of those things. And for a lot of years I was doing workshops and clinics, and I had quite a few people say, they get to the end of the clinic and they'd say, well, we haven't done much desensitizing, when are we going to do some desensitizing? Well, how come you didn't do some desensitizing? And I'd sort of say, well, your horse got quieter, didn't it? It got quieter around you, got quieter with things. And they said, yeah. And they said, yeah, no, but, desensitizing the flags and, ropes and things like that. And what I sort of think about that is I think that desensitizing, you can make it a lesson, but it's not going to help a lot of things. So what you want to be doing is you want to be creating a connection and an understanding with your horse. So by the time you get to sort of maybe showing it some scary things that could interrupt its understanding, because you do want it to be comfortable with the saddle, you want it comfortable with ropes, you want all those things. But most times at a clinic, I'm trying to sort of help people connect and guide their horses better. So once all those tools are in place and you've got a horse that's calm and that's confident around you, then what's going to happen is you start to show it things, and it's going to go, oh, I'm not too bothered by that, because probably the best example I'll explain to sort of give you an understanding of this is, and I read it, I can't remember if it's on one of Ross Jacobs's blogs, or it may have been in his book, but I believe that Harry Whitney might have been the one that sort of originally sort of wrote it, and Ross has got his own interpretation of it. But they talk about the cup of worry, and so you might go and sort of desensitize a horse, and it might have just hanging around you, and because some of the tools that you've got to use. Say for instance, you got to pick up a lead on a horse and guide it. If you pick up a lead and that horse gets anxious, then you're trying to guide that horse with that lead to help it when you want to show it something scary. So when you pick up on that lead, the horse doesn't understand, so it pulls away. So that's sort of, that's quite a few extra shots of worry in that cup every time you pull on that lead, or and if you step in on that horse gets anxious, or things like that. So desensitizing, some people think it's just you get it used to all these things around it, whether it be sort of tarps and flags and all this other paraphernalia, but and that is part of it. But the thing is, without the horse's confidence with you and the understanding of the basic tools that you're going to use to help it, and you've got to think, okay, what tools am I going to help my horse with? Most times we're going to help our horse with a lead rope, because if a horse goes to sort of move away and we want to sort of redirect it or guide it back to us, or bring its thoughts back to us to settle it, then we're going to pick up on the lead. Now, if that lead sort of still feels like a trap to the horse, so when we pull it, the horse goes, oh, crikey, I'm anxious, I want to be out of here, then there'd be no point even sort of trying to show a scary thing to the horse. So a lot of times when I'm trying to help people and horses, whether it be at a clinic or even if I'm just working horses at home, I'm teaching them, I train them first. So I'm training them to understand the feel of a lead, understand that I'm safe, it's a good place around me, they're comfortable with me, they're comfortable with me around them, and then when I go to introducing scary things, if I've introduced it to them, then it's not as scary as it would be if they were scared of me and scared of all the other tools I was using around them. So it's very important that we first focus on that. And when we've got a horse that's comfortable with us, comfortable with our basic guiding tools, generally the scary things are not such a problem, because the horse has a sweet spot. So what I mean by sweet spot is if you show a horse a scary thing and the horse gets quite anxious about the scary thing, what's going to happen is it's going to go, I want to be with my mates, I want to be out of here, I've got to get out of here and get somewhere safe. Now, if you've already introduced a sweet spot in your presence with that horse and that comfort area with your horse, then you can show it, hey, I can help you. And the horse goes, oh, you can help me. And then the horse has a way out of worry. So how that sort of translates to when you're riding is when you're riding your horse, the horse goes, oh, crikey, there's a kangaroo. And you say, hey, follow this rein, and you won't be so worried. So when you're waving a flag and the horse goes, I'm a bit worried about that, you might just go follow this rope and guide on over here and then settle here. And the horse goes, oh, thanks for that. Thanks for the help. Geez, you know how to sort of settle me down. I know that's not exactly what the horse is thinking, but that's sometimes what starts to unfold, is because the horse is confident with your guidance, confident with you, confident in itself around you, then things don't worry it so much. So back to that worry cup thing is, if the horse is already carrying half a cup of worry and you introduce a scary thing, then it spills out and it's too much. Whereas if you can always, if you've got no worry in the cup because the horse is calm with you, then you've only got a little bit of worry when you sort of introduce the scary thing. So that's one thing I want to sort of make clear with people is, they think getting in and handling a horse down and getting all these things over it early is going to be the key to getting the young horse started or, well broke so they can sort of get on and get working it. But to me, educating it is far more important, and getting it to sort of trust us. And then we can start to go in with all those smothery things like, if you want to put tarps, whatever you want to do, saddlebags, pack saddles, anything like that, ropes around their legs, all that sort of stuff. But once they understand all the basic tools, then you can start introducing the desensitizing. So now I will talk a little bit how to get them to build confidence. So part of it is trying to create confidence in a horse when they're worried. So you heard me in the last talk and previous talks talk about, the sweet spot and things like that, and the horse, following the feel and having, I guess, their focus on us till they can settle and just really feel good about that. So that's that sweet spot that I just talked about. Now, without that, everything else is not worth going to. And in a lot of clinics, I might spend a whole day with a person, not a whole day with a person, but for that whole day of that clinic, I will tell them to get that horse to look at you softly. And then the next day they can teach that horse to understand some of the things that they're introducing, like whether it be to guide better, or, hey, I want to get you used to a girth around your belly. So how do you get a horse confident with some real scary things? So I'm going to tell a story about a horse that I worked today, just because we've got some people in the background, and they're currently the clients from the 6-day clinic, and they might put a few questions out later on. But there's a horse that I worked sort of first up this morning, and it's a mare that carries she's an interesting mare. She carries a fair bit of anxiety. She's sort of out there and looks at a lot of stuff. So at the last part of the lesson, I introduced a stock whip, just as a random sort of, I might just throw in the stock whip, see what happens, because everything is a bit of an experiment. But not really. Like, people who do experiments, they don't just, like, a scientist has always done a lot of homework before they do an experiment. So an experiment isn't just you just smash everything together and then blow the whole building up. That'd be stupid. So obviously I didn't just throw in the stock whip. I knew I should be scared of the stock whip, and I wanted her scared of the stock whip. I wanted to bring the stock whip in when I knew that she'd be scared of it, because she hasn't seen it before. And I didn't introduce it to her in a way that was like, oh, here, sniff the whip, follow the whip. Here it is, rub her over. Now I'm just going to start cracking it, and I'm going to build up the cracking until you. No, I didn't do it like that. I had her fairly busy at the time, just leading, following, and she got really good at centering her thoughts and following the feel and just getting better at that. And so while she was following, and when a horse follows, they get confident. When something moves towards them that they're not sure of it, they lose confidence. And that goes back to that, creating confidence, or like replacing anxiety with confidence. So the more a horse can follow, the more a horse goes, oh yeah, what is it? But anyway, so what I did is I quite randomly was leading her, and I quite randomly just cracked the whip, bang, and just kept leading her. And she popped out and she blew away a bit, but because we did a lot of lessons prior to that, going out to the end of the rope, coming back, going out to the end of the rope, coming back, and teaching her to search away, go away and come back, then though she pulled into the rope, she settled pretty quick and then stepped forward. So she had a bit of a blow up into the rope and she'd come forward. And I just kept on my job. I wasn't sort of focused. Mind you, what I mean by that, I could get the wrong impression, is my secondary focus was, I was monitoring her all the time, but I was quite busy on my job. I was just going, I'm walking forward, I'm going to get you to lead and follow me. And then a bit later, I just cracked the whip again. Now, it shocked her, but it was over and done with very quickly. And she goes, oh, you know, righto, following again. And then while she was following, I got a confidence, I got a focus, and she started to settle and go. And then I cracked the whip again. And then until I'd sort of be walking and crack the whip, and she goes, oh, it's just a whip cracking. Now, and then at the end, then we stopped, and then I was, you know, talking and showing people what I was doing, and then I cracked the whip and she was fine. And then I'd sort of crack the whip between me and her, because all the times I cracked the whip, I was walking away, so she was following and looking at me going, oh, I'm following, and the whip was walking away from me every time I cracked it. And then when I knew she could sort of settle and follow the whip without sort of panicking every time the whip cracked, then I allowed her to stand and I cracked the whip. But by then I already knew what she was like when she was moving her feet and the whip cracked, so standing hopefully would be okay. She might shuffle, but she actually went pretty well. And then once she could do that, then I put the whip in a different position, which means I stood. So for instance, I was standing between her and the whip when I cracked it, as in she was over that side, the whip was over this side. Then eventually I sort of stood facing her and just cracked the whip down a side like that. So she, and then the other side. But by the end I went crack, crack, and throw it over her back either side. And she stood there, and I didn't have to spend a lot of time going, oh, here's the whip, throw it over, all this sort of stuff until she was settled. I just said, oh, you know, the whip swings, the whip cracks, follow me, it's okay. And she went, oh, it's okay, just the whip. Now, the reason she accepted the whip quickly, partly I believe, is because she had confidence in my guidance, and by following the whip and me all the time, she got more relaxed about it. And she, I never took it towards her or anything. I never even got her to sniff the whip. Where a lot of times if it's something really scary, I will draw a horse to follow and sniff it. But in this instance, I just said, hey, I just use a whip, you know, and it just comes out of the blue and I crack it and then But the reason she was comfortable with the whip is because she was comfortable with me and she'd settled her mind. She didn't have any place that she was bouncing to, because she's quite a bouncy mare in her thoughts. And so the whip was just an extension of me. And if she trusts me, then that's just an extension of me. So going back to the whole thing of desensitizing is, you know, we think we can get tarps all over and then our horse is not going to be scared of a tarp. Well, you can get a horse to stand dead still and throw a tarp all over it, move around with a tarp on it, and then ride out down the paddock and the horse jumps at the tarp. The reason it jumps at the tarp is because it doesn't like being out in the paddock with you, because it doesn't feel so safe, and because it doesn't feel safe, it sees a tarp and goes, oh, that's a bit scary, because that comfort of that anxiety is already half full as soon as you ride out. So a lot of these scary things, so that, you know, the random bucket or the random sort of kangaroo jumping out and things like that, you know, you can't sort of get a kangaroo by the tail and throw it over your horse a few times and hope that your horse is not going to be, you know, scared of kangaroos. So what are you going to do? You know, you're going to have to get your horse calm with you and then go, well, there's a kangaroo, but hey, why don't you follow this idea, and the horse settles. And so getting a horse to follow your ideas and feel really confident about your ideas and being around you is the most important thing. And then we just introduce things into the equation. So I'll talk about the negative side of desensitizing that I've seen over the years of doing clinics and things like that. And you hear this term a lot more now. And I think once upon a time you didn't hear it a lot, because I think people were sort of using it in training and it was sort of acceptable. It's becoming less acceptable because people are wearing the complication of shutting down horses. So you can shut down horses just by educating them, but one lesson that's really good at shutting down horses is the improper use of desensitizing horses to tools. So desensitizing to tools, and not tools is the wrong word, but just desensitizing to tarps and things like that. So the improper use of desensitizing would be, or the improper way I would say to teach a horse would be, I'm going to wave a scary thing and the horse gets scared, so it tries to go into flight mode. So you keep that scary thing moving and the horse uses that flight mode, it moves its feet, it tries to get away. So regardless of the horse on the end of a rope or it's trapped by a yard, doesn't matter. So you could have them in a small round yard and you can just keep waving that flag or tarp while the horse runs around. And if you see it try and sort of settle a bit, you stop. And then the horse goes, oh, if I stop, he'll stop, or that flag will stop. Or the other one, it could go around on a rope a little bit and you wave a flag and then the horse stops and then you stop. Now the problem with that is the horse tests its flight mode, it wants to get away, that doesn't sort of work. So then eventually it might go, oh, you know, I might quit a bit, and then you go, that's the answer. So the idea with it is the horse learns to stop opposed to run. So people think, yeah, it's a good idea because the horse is not running away, it's learning to stop when it gets a fright. So next time it gets caught up, it's going to stop instead of fright. The only catch is say when a predator catches a horse, or no, sorry, not a horse, because not many predators catch horses, they catch the zebras, I should say, or anything like that. Is if a predator like a lion catches a zebra, and if you shear a sheep, like I'll use the example of a sheep because sheep and horses they're quite different. There's similarities in there. So we don't teach horses to be sheep to be shorn, but what we do is we catch a sheep, and very quickly certain breeds of sheep will just go very soft, and you can bend them and you can shear them and move them around how you like, and they won't move until you chuck them down the chute. Now it's a state I believe these animals go into, and it's sort of a survival, like it's a state that's like, oh, I'm just helpless now, so I'm not going to fight. Now some sheep with a certain like crossbreds might fight more than merinos, but they still will quit and go floppy. Okay. Now desensitizing to me taps into that. If the horse tries to fight and then it goes, oh, okay, that's not working, I'll just stop. You're sending them into that state, and eventually it's just like a learned helplessness, and they've searched, they've stopped searching, and then they've just quit. So my like sort of take on is the horse, you have to keep them searching. You have to keep them interactive and searching and understanding. Now, you don't want them just to sort of just go, oh, crikey, there's a scary thing, shut down, right, it's all gone, open up again and be a horse. Because I've seen too many horses now through clinics that to get them out of that hole is very difficult. And when you get them out, they very quickly jump back into it. And the most time I've spent at a clinic is just getting the horse to come out of the hole and be a horse again. So what I mean is like they hide in this hole and they just go, here, I'm still, everything's fine, and then they have to climb out of it. And then the problem is when they accidentally get tipped out of it with a big fright, then they don't know how to cope. So the idea is with desensitizing is you get horses curious in scary things, you get them to think about them, follow them until they sniff them, follow them until they understand them, and then introduce them like that. But as I said earlier, if you've got good education, it's not about having to desensitize your horse, to desensitize it to everything. It's about just having the horse educated and quiet enough and focused enough that it's more okay about the things that you show it. So yeah, introducing, if you've got something like a tarp or anything like that you want to introduce the horse to, get your leading good so the horse thinks forward when you lead. You can say for instance, if I've got a horse that's standing one side and I've got a flag, say flag is the scary thing over here, and I want the horse to think towards the flag, then I should be able to pick up a rein or pick up the rope, and I can get the horse to draw its thoughts to the flag. That's how I want the lead rope to work. So I know I can help that horse think towards scary things, follow towards the scary thing, follow me, follow towards the whip, whatever the scary thing may be. And then once they're following and they're sniffing, and then they've sniffed it themselves. So I don't just go up and get a scary thing and say, oh, here, can you sniff that? Oh, great, excellent. Can I rub you with it? Because what that's going to do is just sort of get that horse to go back into that, you know, oh, right, I'm going to shut down and I'm just going to be quiet, and I don't really like this, but I'll just stand here and put up with it. But if I can say, hey, here's that scary thing, hey, here it is. Hey, why don't you follow it? Why don't you follow it? Here, come on. and draw it away, that horse will go, oh yeah, right, can I sniff it? And then when it's like opened up and loosened up and sniffed out at it, then what's going to happen? It's going to go, I've accepted that a little bit more. I've followed up to it. And then it's going to be more accepting of the real scary thing that you want to touch it with or rub it with or something like that. So that's very important. They have to have come towards it themselves, sniffed out, and connected with it. Otherwise, you know, you've just put something on them, and no, they might be standing their feet. They haven't sort of. And when we do there's a little horse in the foal handling videos that we're doing and we're putting on, and he was like this, I don't want to look at things, and so it was really hard to get him to want to turn and look at stuff and to just sniff out. But it was very important in his development that he searches and he seeks. Very important, and you heard me talk about it in the last talk, let them go, let them search and seek, and then we can re-guide them after that. So, you know, whether it's going to be a mistake or the right thing they're going to do, you've got to let them go with it. You've got to let them make those little mistakes and things like that. So you think it's good to make decisions. It's good to be a horse. And it's the same as getting them used to scary things. So, yeah, so replacing anxiety with confidence. So in the desensitizing area, the horse is anxious with this. When it can follow it and sniff it, it becomes confident with it. Replacing anxiety with confidence, right? That's so many areas. How do I sort of get into that without getting off track? I'll try and think of a scenario. Okay, very simple scenario. Just one of many scenarios, but the simple one that I sort of try and show people, getting a horse to cast past us on a circle, for instance. We get the horse so good at following the field, and I'm going to use another example of a client that's been with me for a little while and doing some clinics, and she's got a horse that I was really impressed with the progress that we made at this clinic, as in the progress that she's done at home. She's been chipping away quite good at trying to get this horse to improve, and this horse is a very interesting little fellow. Like he can be quite quiet and not interested, and then he can be quite nervous. And one of the last clinics, you know, we really had a bit of trouble getting energy transitions just out on a circle. So I said to the lady, I said, listen, just go, you know, well, I didn't say to her like this, I won't say because I won't exactly know exactly what I said to her, but I encouraged her to maybe work on leading more and just get the horse better at leading and just work on some simple things, but it's like do less but expect a bit more. Okay, so instead of doing a lot, which we were probably asking that horse to do a little bit more than we should have, and he wasn't giving us good enough quality. So we just did, so she went home and probably did a little bit less, but she got so much more, because when the horse came back, his confidence on his groundwork had gone up so much that we could guide him, like in the one lesson that I had with him, and I did the lesson today, is I could guide him, I could sort of get energy transitions, and then he could hold energy. All those things were working very well, as in a lot better than I'd expected they would. And maybe she didn't even work on all those things individually, but what she did work on is the one thing that was going to help all those other things work, and that was just leading. Now how does that make him confident? Well, he got confident in understanding that if she just could cast him through here and not worry, and cast him through there and lead up freely and keep moving and focus and flow and things like that through the lead. And when he got really good at just doing that, he went, oh, this is easy. And then we said, okay, now guide on out there. Now guide on out there a bit faster. And then he went, oh, well, this is easy too. So he got confidence by doing a simple task that meant a lot, because people don't realise the value in getting a horse to lead properly. And properly is just not, oh, yeah, just catch you and lead you down to the saddle or the yards. It's, can you sort of lead through here, back up through here, soft, you know, open up your thoughts and open up your shoulders through there, maybe yield the hindquarters through the feel of the rein, all those things. That's all part of leading, if you really want to take it a little bit seriously. So the confidence he got in just leading made him so much better at all the other things. Whereas trying to get him to do all the other things when one simple thing wasn't working was just sort of blowing his confidence, and he just like lose interest and start shutting down and just not wanting to work. And it wasn't laziness. I believe it was just a lack of clarity, and probably and that lack of clarity caused a lack of confidence in them. So, and the one thing that I go back to a lot all the time is driving versus guiding, as in, or directing, or however you want to say it is. If you guide a horse and the horse seeks and searches, so dribbling, okay? The most fancy horsemanship term you'll ever hear, dribbling, okay? Getting your horse to dribble. Now that you might go, what's Mark talking about? He's a lunatic. And yes, I am a little bit of a lunatic, but dribbling is very important. Dribbling is something where I allow a horse to say, go past me, and just go, what am I doing? Where am I going? I don't know. Can I go over here? Can I go over there? What can I do? So that's what I would talk. If I said to someone, just let your horse go past and dribble out there, well, they're just going to dribble along lost, like just dribbling. And that's, to me, you don't take that off your horses. You let them do it. You don't tell them exactly what you want them to do next. You let them do something, and then you let them find their way. Now, by finding their way, that teaches them confidence. If you just push them out and say, go out there, and they don't know what to do out there, they don't know why they're out there, but they just got shoved out there, then they're not going to be confident, okay? So in groundwork, if you see them actively seeking and searching, know the searching may be in the wrong direction, and you allow them to go with it, you create confidence in their decisions. You can curve their decision after they've made a decision. So where people sometimes take a horse's confidence off them is they take the decision off the horse. So for instance, the horse goes, I might want to think out over there and go over there. So the person goes, no, I need you to focus here. So then the horse goes, oh, okay. But later on, when I come back around, I'm going to want to focus out there again. And then the person goes, no, focus here. Whereas if they let that horse dribble out a little bit and go, oh, no, that's all right, I've been over there now. So then the horse will relax a bit. So that back to that cup of worry is, by allowing the horse to make its decision, you actually take a bit of worry out of your horse. Whereas if you take it from that decision and say, don't do that, then you add worry opposed to taking worry out. So if you take worry out, then you can guide your horse later. Once it's made the decision to go with its thoughts, then you can redirect it and say, well, that wasn't such a good idea, maybe that door's closed. But by allowing it to go with its thought first, gave it confidence. And then most times they come back to what you want them to do. Now, I know that sounds all a bit technical, not technical, but maybe philosophical and all, but how do you work it? But well, that's where your guys' creativity comes into it, and just watch your horses a bit harder. Just watch them and maybe don't push them in a straight line when you ride them. Let them dribble, let them get a bit lost, and then say, oh, by the way, that door over there is closed. And then they'll come over here and you go, but yeah, that door's closed. And then, oh, okay, well, how about I try this one? You go, yeah, that's a good idea. How about you go that way? Okay, so that sort of teaches a horse confidence. And you've helped them get to their decision. And after a while, they'll like being underneath you, because you think, well, they don't like being lost forever. That's the thing, is you think getting them lost is, oh, yeah, they get to go their way and they're going to learn to want to go that way. I don't think horses want to be lost all the time. So allowing them to get a little bit lost and go with their decisions and then finding you gives them confidence. And it's the same on the ground, same on the saddle. So the biggest thing that gives a horse confidence is let them go with their decisions, and generally that you'll get better focus from it anyway, and all those things. And as I go back to all the time, is if you push a horse away from you to seek refuge from pressure that you've created, you will take their confidence. And I've seen too many horses improve by taking that one negative thing away, is guiding their horses as opposed to pushing them away. And I've seen so much confidence created in those horses and more comfort around their handlers, that it's one of those sort of, to me, it's a non-questionable thing. The only time I sort of push a horse away is when they smash into me. And I'm not pushing them away. I'll just say that door's closed, and I'll just strengthen myself and do whatever I have to do to just change that thought that's pushing into me. But I'm not chasing them away to say, get away and I'm the boss around here and I'm the king of the universe. It's just, I'm a tree, I'm not going to fold. And they respect that and they're fine with that, and you won't worry and they won't lose confidence. But if you bring your boundary to them and push them, and as you've heard me say, and it was more, I think out of one of Mark Rash's books that I got this when I was younger, when I sort of really needed it, I suppose, was you let your horse find boundaries, you don't bring your boundaries to them. Very important, okay? So, yeah, now what I'm going to do is if there's any questions, you can post some questions, but the first question, while other guys, while a lot of people want to be posting questions, I'm going to go to Cheryl, you may have asked this question. I'm not sure, I haven't been checking all the names. You may be out there online now, but Cheryl, you've asked a question about Freddie. How to bring Freddie back into work after his long break. Now, Cheryl, I think, because it's a while ago since I've seen it, I think it's Freddie that you had at my clinic here a while ago, quite a while ago now. And now he's lame. How do you bring him back into work? If he's not lame, and then I just start to sort of go back to things like leading. So, you know, all the things that I just talked about now, just on this and the last, you know, the last live talk about young horses. So I'm just trying to think. So I'd just be starting to get him to lead up nice. And as I remember, Freddie, I'm a bit confused. I'm hoping Freddie's the one that I worked and it's not another one of your horses. But I'm pretty sure Freddie would be the one I know. And if you're there, you can just correct me on that. But yeah, if Freddie's the one that I've had a bit to do with, then he had a bit of a problem with just flowing and just committing to that lead. So one thing I'd really work on is a bit of accuracy and focus through the lead rope, but also flow. So he's a bit of a sticky horse and he sort of sticks and he pulls back a bit and things like that. So something I'd be wanting to work on him is teaching him to lead up soft. So when you pick up that feel of that lead, he just travels through nice. And if you put the lead on that side, or you took it through here, you just follow it really nice. And then when you say pick up on that lead, you just float and you go and just float and go. And that's what I'd be sort of really looking at, is just getting to float through that lead really nice. And don't spend a lot of time standing, spend more time moving. So when he's with you, he's moving and he's and another thing that I teach a lot of, and if you watch the long reining videos that we've just put, the young horse that I really start, and I'd probably get him to sort of cast past, find straight lines, go around, and just get him flowing really nice. So you can send him out in the straight line. When you pick up the feel of the lead, he just turns nice and comes back through, and you got that sort of energy, that constant calm energy just happening all the time when you're around him on the ground. Once you've got that and you want to get back under the saddle, then when you're riding him, then I just say, you know, give him some space. Go means go. When he's going, let him dribble, let him be a bit lost, because if he's trying to micromanage and say, I want you to do this, he might just get a bit jacked up about that and say, oh, you know, this direction you want me to go in is a bit difficult. And so what I'd probably do is just let him dribble around, let him find his way, and just show him where the closed doors are once he's made the decision. So when do you present a closed door to a young horse or a learning horse? Maybe something I was saying to the people today when I was working was, okay, when does that idea become a destination? As in, when the horse starts to go, I'm over there and I want to be there, then I might say that door's closed. If the horse just thinks out straight and dribbles and gets a bit lost, then I just let it go. But if that lostness becomes a destination, as in it's going dribbling like this, and it goes, oh no, I'm going to go that way, then let it go that way and say, oh, that's a real destination. So what I mean destination, the horse wants to beat the horses. So it goes, I'm going to go to those horses. And you go, okay, now you've sort of picked a destination. That's where you want to get to. So your mind's stuck there and your feet are just trying to catch it up. That's when I go, that door's closed, and then I just let him go out again until he starts to not just throw his mind out to where he wants to be, whether it be home or anything like that. And he just starts to walk more in a flowing but more passive way, that he's not just casting to a destination. And then once he's sort of tracking up underneath it, then I just work on just riding and just you know, practicing legs. So back to legs, and he was a bit sticky off the legs, so I'd slow him right down, squeeze him with the legs to get him to sort of move forward off the legs, but I'd actually slow him right down so he feels good about moving forward and things like that. And yeah, and then just build him up like that. But yeah, you can do a bit of groundwork, just getting him loose and focused and soft, and work on that nice movement, because he's one of those horses that needs to learn how to flow, and when he's around you, flow and move, and that's going to be a lot easier when you're riding. So yeah. So has anyone else got any questions that they'd like to post right now while I'm still online? Any things that I've explained that you're not so sure about, or anything that you think I've missed that you'd like to know about with the desensitizing and things like that? Because as I say, these subjects can get so deep and long that you could sort of talk about, you know, a lot of stuff. I just asked the guys out the back because they're out there listening too. Has anyone out there got any questions? No? That's all right. You think so? We're just going to take the laptop out because we've got a live audience. It's a bit scary.
I just saw the photo before on Facebook.
Is that the live audience? There you go. See the live audience? Hello everyone. Do you have any questions on desensitizing or anything like that? Or it is about desensitizing, and can you see me there? Hello?
Pressure on, I've got something else to see in her eyes. I was interested in if they've got a horse that's already been flooded, and you might reverse some of that damage.
So, Bern's got a question on a horse that's already been flooded. So what I mean by flooded is basically you pull out anything looks a bit like a desensitizing lesson, and the horse goes, okay, all right, I'm here. So those horses lose curiosity. So by losing curiosity, they don't actively seek and search what they're scared of, and they don't go, is that okay, am I safe? They just learn to go into this learned helplessness state. And the hardest thing with those is every time you replicate any lesson that's similar to anything they've had, or take out any tools that are similar to what they've had, they just go into this hole, the hole I was talking about before. So there is a way that you can get them out. Now, I don't say to everybody do this, because it's one of those things. Say, for instance, if I've got a flag and the horse is used to the flag like this, or something like that, I might sort of get that horse and I might stand there and I might go, oh, and the horse will go, what was that? And it'll be, where did that come from? It'll just quickly get it to jump out of the hole for a moment. And then while it's out of the hole, I might get it to look at me and just follow me. Just like that. Just follow me, follow me, follow me, and it'll go, what was that? And then you go, and then when you see the horse just go back into the hole, you might just pop it out again. But the thing is you have to use whatever tool you got to get it out, whether you tap yourself on the leg, which is probably never enough. It has to be effective and quick enough to get that horse out quick, to go, oh, and then everything else is still, and you're just standing there calm like a tree and going, I'm here, and the horse goes, oh. And then you try and draw it, and you get it to sniff you. And if you can get it to have a connection with you, as in, here I am, then I'll go, oh, you're safe, you're fine, but what was that shock? I didn't know what that shock was. And then you can say, oh, by the way, it was a flag. Would you like to sniff it? And it goes, oh, yeah. So you've got to get the horse sort of sensitized to the flag again in a way. So yeah, you can use your tools like that to bring it out, but it's a very quick job done, but I'm here to help. So, and there are ways you can, and the other way is keep them thinking and moving their feet. So basically, if they're so desensitized, you give them something else to think about till they go, oh, what's this I'm following? You know, this is completely different. So some horses that have been mechanically worked all the time and they're very robotic, very shut down, I'll do something completely different that they've probably never done before, and they go, oh, crikey, what am I going to do here? And they actually get lost. I teach them to get lost. As in, I want that horse to feel like it doesn't know any of the answers, and it's got to start searching again. And that is quite hard to do in itself, but what that does is they go, oh, right, I've been here once upon a time, but I was pushed around and shoved and desensitized, and then I lost my search ability. So I get them to sort of be lost and actively search again. And that's, you know, there's 100 ways of it, not 100, but a lot of ways I can help you with that. So that's one way. Yeah, so I think that, yeah, I have used a bit of positive reinforcement, as in scratching. There was a horse in Germany that we sort of scratched it a bit, and when it sort of came out of its shell and started to look around, so we're using the feel of the lead to get it to think with the lead rope, and it wouldn't do it. It'd just go, oh, you know, I'm just going to follow the lead rope like that, and I'm just, so we'd sort of pick up feel and we'd sort of scratch it and you go, oh yeah, and then you get to follow the feel of it, and so and then scratch and follow the feel, and so until it started to be interested in it. So that was a way that this was a very shut down 20-year-old horseman.
You don't use food rewards?
Food rewards, good question. I try not to, because it's so hard to apply, as in, one, it's hard to apply, as in, it's easy to apply, but I've seen the technical problem with food is a horse goes, that was good. Food gone? Okay. Sometimes its thoughts are on the food when you want it on the reality. So the reality could be the scary flag that it never actually really got used to, or the scary creek that it's got to cross. And I've seen horses go into horse floats, and their mind was on the reward, and then I don't think they tested the float like a horse should. I don't think they went, oh, you know, crikey, what's this? And they've got to be scared about what they're going into to accept it and go, this is not scary anymore. And sometimes the thought of a treat overrides the detail of every moment. So there's so much detail in every step that it becomes a destination for the horse. So food rewards become a little bit too much of a destination. That's probably exactly what I'm saying. Instead of being in the moment of travel, they're going to the destination, and I've seen that, and it's so to start saying everybody just give your horse to bring it out. So I've seen the complications of the negative side of horses aren't, and then all of a sudden they get a fright in the float and freak out because their mind was on the destination, not the journey there, you know, not the bits they were scared of getting there.
Can I ask another question? You asked about horses being frightened. Do you always start any horse with anxiety or fear or lack of confidence in the same place, with that shock and then I'm safe?
No. The question was so I used the example before about like getting a horse out of a deep hole by a quick sharp out there, and it goes, what do I do next? No, because those horses are already out of their hole. They're already looking around, they're already actively searching, they're already doing that. So the question, sorry. The question was, do I do that with you know, horses that I'm starting? Do I sort of make them a little bit anxious to make them search for them? Okay, so you know what you mean by that is, you know, I can say, hey, I'm just going to pop a flag. You're going to look around, and then you go, oh, can you help me? So that's yes, and so no,